Hello viewers, today I am present before you with a video on Elizabethan age. In this video, I shall be talking about the age, what are the important characteristics of the age, and name some of the famous writers of this age. If you want to take a note, you can sit with a notebook and a pen and jot down some of the important and relevant details of Elizabethan age. So let us begin. Elizabethan era commenced with the reign of Elizabeth I as the Queen of England in 1558 until her death in 1603. In British history, her reign saw literary development reach its climax and conclusion and is considered to be the most remarkable era for both mental and geographical horizons. Many a time this question arises that are the Elizabethan age and Renaissance age in English literature same? And the answer to this is Elizabethan age is basically a part of Renaissance, and hence many a time they can be seen to be overlapping each other. Now let us talk about the literary features of Elizabethan age. What are the main characteristics of this age? So when we see the literature of Elizabethan age, we see that there is the element of new classicism. By the time of Elizabeth, the Renaissance had made its presence strongly felt in England. There was an ardent revival in the study of Greek, and in all classical languages like Greek and Latin forced themselves upon the branches of literature. But the new classical influences were of a great benefit as they polished the earlier sturdiness and roughness of English. English language itself was developing, was growing, was becoming the type of English which we are using in today's world. And a number of changes were happening. Many new things were entering the domain, and many old things were leaving the space. In the Elizabethan age, another important characteristic feature is the abundance of output. In the Elizabethan era, there was an abundance of literary output. Pamphlets, treatises were freely written, and literary discussions slowly grew in importance and frequency. More and more people, they were desirous of learning what was happening and how they can contribute their own sense of understanding. The third important characteristic was the new romanticism. The romantic desires of the remote, wonderful and beautiful were nurtured during the Elizabethan era, which can be considered as the first and greatest romantic epoch. And what else we were seeing? That there was a rejection of the old and the past in general, which was termed or labeled as rigid for an adventurous age like this. There was a daring and a resolute spirit of adventure in literary as well as regional literature of the period, and the totality of Elizabethan literature was observing this new adventurous spirit, which is labeled as New Romanticism. Another important thing for which Elizabethan age is so famously known is the development of drama. And when the word drama comes, we can definitely remind that William Shakespeare was one of the prominent playwrights of the age. Drama had to overcome many difficulties in the Elizabethan age. One was the closure of theatre between the years 1590 to 93. This problem was solved in 1594 by the licensing of 2 troupes. There were a lot of difficulties because theatres were closed and there was considerable amount of puritanical opposition, and anti-drama literature was also existing. Despite all these difficulties, the theatre was capable to manage and was capable in reaching a kind of splendid consummation. And the credit goes to none other than William Shakespeare. We also see in this age as one of the prominent characteristics the development of prose and poetry. Poetic production, as many of you must be already knowing, was of great and original beauty, even though it was not as popular as drama. Prose also rose to a position of first-rate importance and was gradually seen to acquire a universal application. In the Elizabethan age, we also see that sonnets were written, and we also know that how these sonnets depicted different aspects of human intellect as well as human emotion. Another thing that we need to know about is Elizabethan literature themes. Generally viewed as the greatest period of English literature, this age and its literature was widely influenced by the impact of Renaissance. It was also greatly influenced by the exploration of unknown parts of the world and new geographical and scientific discoveries. So many new things were happening in Elizabethan age, which the literature of that time period was capturing. It was also influenced by the subjects of Greek literature, as I already mentioned, and the antiquity. They helped to throw light on the previously dark places of interest in terms of literature. This era and the literature it produced was also marked by abundance of translation. And many translation works were actually taken into consideration, and they were properly executed by the writers concerned. Several important foreign texts were translated into English, which became extremely popular. For example, Aristotle's Orlando Furioso was translated into English by Sir John Harrington, and Tasso's Jerusalem Liberata was translated by Richard Carew. And despite borrowing from other places, Elizabethan literature was highly original in quality. As we already know that many of the plots that Shakespeare has used in his plays were taken from one or the other source. But in reality, if anybody talks about English literature, the name of Shakespeare is never missed. So the reason was, even though he was borrowing, he was capable of giving it the kind of originality those borrowed plots needed. And that is the magic of William Shakespeare. Now, moving towards the closing of this video, let me tell you why this age is labeled as the golden age of literature. Queen Elizabeth's reign became the golden era for production of literary works because she herself was a great patron of art and literature. During her reign, some new forms of poetry were introduced, dramas were written, first English essays were introduced, and almost there was a lot of production in the zone of literature. And this literature traveled far and wide, thereby giving the term Golden Age, which was capable of enlightening the masses not only of the Elizabethan England but the world all around. So, if you had heard this video, if you have listened to this video properly, I believe that this introductory video on Elizabethan age definitely will help you in tracing out the maximum part of this age through your history book. There were a number of writers that I mentioned, and definitely we talked about William Shakespeare. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and do let me know in the comment section what else would you like to know about Elizabethan age, and I will be happy to help. My email ID is mentioned in the section below, so you can mail me if you have any queries, and see you next time with another video and something more about English literature. Thank you and have a great day ahead.